half a minute to go. What's that?
Now it is. Just turn over.
Right. I declare the meeting open. Welcome those present in attendance and advise that the meeting will be recorded in accordance with Council policy titled Electronic Recording of Council Meetings to assist in the preparation of minutes and ensure a true and accurate account of debate and discussion at meetings is available. I'll now do an acknowledgement of country. Circular Council acknowledges the Northwest Tasmanian Aboriginal people as the traditional custodians of the country on which we stand, meet and play. We recognise their continuing connection to the land, waters and community. We pay respect to elders past, present and emerging. We'll now be upstanding for prayers. Prayers tonight for everybody who Reverend Joel and purpose. Thanks, Joel.
Lord God, creator of heaven and earth, we thank you for these men and women who are here to serve the district of Circular Head tonight. We ask that you will grant them wisdom beyond their understanding, help them know when to speak and when to listen, give them humility and help them work together well as a team to making wise decisions for the good of this district of Circular Head. Please accept our prayers through Jesus Christ, our Lord, who taught us to pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Thank you.
Thanks, Joel. We have one apology, Councillor Woodward, tonight, and one leave of absence, Councillor Ackland. There's no other apologies, I understand it. We'll now go down to the minutes of the last meeting. Is somebody prepared to move that on the 16th of June? Councillor Oldacre, seconded. Yes. Councillor Poposky. Any queries on the accuracy of the minutes? Not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Aye. Against, carried. Issues raised by councillors 3-1 and 3-2-0. 3-3, that we've got a response to a question taken from previous minutes meeting. 3-4, councillor questions without notice. Are there any councillor questions without notice? Councillor Oldacre.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With your indulgence, is it possible for us to have a discussion about what we might do or how we might respond to the foot and mouth crisis that could face our country and what it might do, and be able to write that to the federal government with those concerns?
Yeah, we could do that in...
We could do it in one of the August workshops and put a letter through August Council.
They'd be happy with that. Thank you. Any further questions without notice? If not, we'll move right along to 4, declaration of pecuniary interests. Are there any declaration of pecuniary interests or non-pecuniary interests?
Mr. Mayor, non-pecuniary item 11.8, due to owning land within the proposed protection area, but I'll be staying in for the discussion. Thank you.
Okay. Anything further? If not, we'll go down to a recommendation we need for items 5, 6 and 7. We move those at a block and then we deal with them all individually. Thank you. Second. Councillor Ives, Harris and Deputy Mayor. I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. 5 is notification of council workshops. There was 2 there. Is anybody got anything they want to talk about on that? Not. we'll go down to, I was going to say everything I did during that month, but probably not everything. But not much on there. No questions with that? Thanks for the Deputy Mayor for filling in my absence during the month. And 7, there are no late agenda items. We now come to 8, which is public question time. Council encourages community participation by providing the opportunity for public questions on activities of council. Councillors and staff strive to ensure all people are treated with courtesy, fairness, dignity and respect, and we ask members of the public to apply similar standards in dealing with the council. As the chairperson of the committee of this meeting, it is my responsibility to judge if a question or statement is out of order and due to use of offensive, objectionable or defamatory expressions. I intended to provide people the opportunity to ask 2 questions each, and if time permits, may allow more. Please provide your name and contact details and a summary of your question on the forms provided so that if we need to contact you, we can. And I'll ask for questions shortly. But first of all, there's items 8.1, there is none, and 8.2, there's none. So we now have public questions. Are there any questions from the public? Thank you.
My name's Craig Dwyer. My first question is, what weight will the council place on public feedback received to date in deciding whether to implement the scenic protection, in particular the overwhelming support for the protection of the Stanley Peninsula?
Ashley, would you like to comment on that, or later in the meeting? Or?
I thought the question was around a decision-making exercise by council rather than, I can say that we've done the community consultation. The consultants have implemented amendments to the report, which will be spoken to later in this evening's proceedings. We feel that reflects feedback provided by the community. It's noted in the report that between 75 to 85% of the survey responses were positive for implementing the scenic protection areas, not just Stanley, but all the 5 that were put forward. And so therefore they've been carried forward, and that's up for consideration by council this evening.
And council has had a copy of all those, so that would be taken into consideration when we further discuss it. Thank you.
Thanks. My second question is the Inspiring Place report mentions that GSC have identified the Stanley Nut as of significance, and it was on the now archived National Estate list. Is council aware that there are members seeking a process to have the nut and the volcanic features of the peninsula included in the National Heritage List, and that in our last submission that they advised that the natural features have a strong case and they will review this year with the inclusion of proper, with additional Aboriginal support? Just wondering if council is aware of that. I'm
not sure whether council was aware of it or not. Is council is aware? I wasn't aware of it. Oh.
I read it.
Okay.
Yeah, so some yes and some no.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further questions? Yep.
Question on a different related matter, Jonathan Smith. My question relates. My question is the council aware that Rural Health intend to dispose of a crisis accommodation home that they own in Circular Head? And if so, if you are aware, does council intend to make any representations to the Board of Rural Health about the merits or otherwise of their intention? And the grounding of this is that I understand that council may have granted Rural Health the land or that property at some point in the distant past?
I will be making no comment because I'm the chair of rural health, so I'm handing that to.
I'm not aware as such, but I don't think council did that. They did give the land. So yeah, we'd have to take that on notice and find out because.
Well, my further question would be, will council investigate and if they see merit in trying to persuade, might council find some merit in trying to persuade rural health to revoke that decision so that Circular Head is not left without crisis accommodation?
We'll have to take that on notice and have a conversation about it. But thank you for that.
Any further questions?
Kristen Smith
Yes.
Stanley. I've just been having a look at the paperwork around the proposed motion for scenic protection, and there's a very nice flowchart. Could you tell me how long the first step in the flowchart is going to take if council passes the motion tonight? So it talks around consultation, education, explaining to landowners.
I couldn't do that because we've only, councillors has only been given that when we got here tonight. Ashley would be able to.
How long will that step take?
Be undetermined at this point in time. It'll take as long as it takes to get around to all the landowners. That's the key step in that process. But we also want to take the water community at the same time. But the councillors were keen on speaking to all landowners involved within the scenic protection area. So it would.
So all, as long as it takes to get all landowners involved in.
It would be difficult to tell, but I would imagine between 200 to 500.
So ballpark, is it likely to be more than 3 months?
I wouldn't know, but I would say it would be longer than 1 month, but probably less than 3 months. But try and
Great, thank you.
Any further questions? No further questions, thank you. We now come to notice of motion and we have one from Councillor Raposky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With your permission, may I remain seated?
Yeah, you're fine.
I'll read the motion that Council lobby the state government via the minister to survey and release between 50 and 100 residential blocks on the southern side of the township of Arthur River.
Somebody prepared to second that?
Second that, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Ryan Serris.
In the motion, I've had a rationale there, and I'll speak on the rationale as presented. First item I'd like to see is, as we all know as councillors, that residential land is required in Circular Head, not only for to overcome the housing crisis, but for further development. Also, the latest census reveals a drop in the population within Circular Head, therefore we need to attract residents to live here. The Arthur River Township has potential to grow and to meet this need. The area just south of the Arthur River is Crown Land and Zone Village, just right to be developed and grow the township. The government has indicated that it is prepared to release land for economic development. It's one of their strategies they've released in that recent past. The next point I make is offering and growing the township would be popular and desirable. It could be sold or developed by the government. Economically, it would be better than cost neutral. And as councillors, we like to delve in the finances. And I'll give you an example. 50 blocks only were released at 50,000. It's $2.5 million to the government. $2.5 million. If it took $1.5 million to develop the roads and the power and the requirements within a village, they still make $1 million. I'm sure the state government would love to see $1 million go into their pocket. but there's an increase for us. Another 50 blocks with an average rate of $1,500 brings in 75,000 to the council's bottom line. Beautiful off our deficit we're running at the moment. So there's economic advantages in releasing these blocks. Just think if they had done the 100 blocks, you could double those figures. So there's economically it stacks up. Additional blocks would benefit the western area greatly. It would grow the township and increase activities within the western area. It will offer many potential possibilities due to popular location on the edge of the conservation area and provide residential opportunities and job creation. I'll give you an example. Emerging kelp industries, eco and indigenous tourism, agriculture value, which adds cheese and wine. Agriculture value add, with cheese and wine. And of course we speak about renewable energy. It allows business growth within the area to service the needs of those new community members. And of course there's a fair chance on visitor accommodation and resorts on the edge of the river. Also, this motion supports the Tarkine Coast Progress Group, who put a report to us about growing living on the edge of the Tarkine coast. And one of the areas that they identified was the growth potential of Arthur River. So we've got backing of the Progress Group, which is great. And also, the motion also meets our strategic objectives of population growth and livability along with our budget corrections. So it's got all advantages. I can't see any negatives in lobbying the government. The other thing that I just thought of was the timing is now. The timing is right. There's going to be a consultant who's going to look at how the government are going to spend the $10 million for running to the needs of the Arthur Pieman area. If we earmark this with the government now, we earmark it with the consultants, it's where the growth area could be, and I believe now is the time that we should lobby the government and get it on the books that this is what we'd like to do in our area. Thank you.
Councillor Harris, you want to make?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I commend Councillor Bosky for the motion and commentary around his rationale. In 1987, one of the first management plans for the Arthur Pieman Conservation Area, it was highlighted then, so it's been on Parks' books for some time. The area or the title's already there, separate to the conservation area, so it's part of that strategy that Parks had for some time. They just haven't acted upon it. You did mention, Councillor Bosky, about visions for the area, and we've got Western Explorer as part of our vision long term for our municipality to seal. I think this adds a bit of pressure, a bit of weight to that conversation, along with not having to use prime agricultural land for housing. I think for far too long we're using very good prime agricultural land to build houses on it. So this is another area in which it adds population to probably an area that can grow and must grow to survive. So with that, I call on other councillors to support this motion. Thank you.
Any further discussion for or against the motion? No?
I just sorry. I commend Councillor Bosky for this motion. I'm just wondering if some of the wording units, like you've got 1,500 residential blocks, is that leaving it too confined if you wanted to make it into like accommodation or other areas, if we're just stating that? I'm just trying to think of what could come out of it, and I was just sort of wondering whether, I know I probably shouldn't move an amendment, but I just wondered what that would look like and whether we should be looking at more of an open thing as a lobbying the state government and the minister. So not actually survey and release, but to actually look at handing over the land to someone to survey and release or other options. Because government don't want to do a lot of that sort of stuff. So I'm just sort of weighing up where things sit of how we should actually be wording that to say that, because the survey and release it, we can say that, we can ask them to do that, but is that going to actually agree to what they will actually do if we actually make it a bit more open-ended to that for them? So I'm sort of, as it sits now, I don't know if I'll vote for the motion, but I just sort of favour on that because of that reason.
But it could be 50 to 100 blocks without take the residential out.
It doesn't have to be residential because there's obviously opportunities for businesses and resort down there. So I'm quite happy to remove residential off there. 50 to 100 blocks is just a ballpark figure. I would imagine they'd look at it, say how much area they got, how many blocks it fit, what the village requirements are. So, yeah, point taken that residential is a bit narrow. 50 to 100 blocks is just to give them something to think about. They want to put 200 or 400 or 25, you know. So that's only a ballpark figure.
You'd be happy to put that out?
Yeah, happy to second that, Mr. Mayor.
Or change?
Or change it, yeah, whatever the wording. Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Residential out. Yeah. Any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
We don't have any planning authority issues tonight, so we'll go straight on to 11.1, which is establishment of Circular Head Health and Wellbeing Collective. Thanks, Deborah.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to present the report for Council to approve to establish the Circular Head Health and Wellbeing Collective, endorse the draft Circular Head Health and Wellbeing Strategy, and also the draft terms of reference for the collective. The collective's been developed from work being undertaken and guided by the University of Tasmania Capital Project. This project aims to create pathways to better health and wellbeing in our community, particularly in the areas of healthy eating, increased physical activity and community connections. The Capital Project identified 3 key areas in the northwest to target, which was hoping to increase the healthy outcomes, and Circular Head was one of these areas identified. Council officers have been working closely with the UTAS project team and engaging with local service providers to firstly recognise the risk factors in the community and then to formalise existing partnerships to work together to try and improve the wellbeing of the community. Some of the strategies that are in the that we're looking to identify is holding regular community health and wellbeing checkup screenings and provide relevant health and community information. Investigates the social prescribing program. This is best described as community referrals or non-medical prescribing. It's linking people to existing health, community support services or activities within our community. It'd be hopeful to engage a community connector to undertake this work, and it would be connecting with all the service providers to gather the information and keep that updated. We would expect we'd have to have external funding for this position. Also, there's an opportunity to upskill our volunteers to provide a source of support within their organisations, and also we could identify gaps, so there's opportunities for new initiatives and activities as well. The terms of reference covers the purpose, the objectives and the proposed membership and the meeting procedures for the group. We feel that the collective will strive to work together to improve the wellness, and also our strategies links closely with our strategic plan and our existing health and wellbeing plans, age friendly and our youth plans. And there's also linkages to other plans that we have in place as well. So I'll present this to you, councillors, and happy to take.
Thank you very much. Prepared to move the recommendation? Thanks, Deputy Mayor, and yes, Mr. Councillor Blizzard seconded. Any discussion required on this? It's all fairly self-explanatory, and it's something that's been doing very well for some time now.
Can I ask a question? When when we'll get an answer on external funding, because I think that's critical to it, and I would like to see it sort of. Yeah, I agree with the concept, but we need some certainty about the external funding to then progress with it, and therefore I would think about an amendment or something. Yes, we agree to it, but only subject to getting a positive confirmation of funding.
Councillor Hine, Councillor Hine, the social prescribing program is quite new for us, so we're still investigating all the opportunities. We're actually going to Ulverston next month to meet with some other organisations that are undertaking this program. So before we ask about getting external funding at this particular time, we certainly need to find out more information about it. So that's where it won't be initially. There's things that we can do already that don't require funding at this particular time. But it certainly will be a priority.
Thank you.
Any further?
But we've talked about it for a long time, and it's good to have it all in writing and start to move forward with it.
Thank you.
I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. 11.2, Stanley Visitor Services.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The recommendation is that Council progresses establishment of a visitor information centre at the Stanley Town Hall and provides support to other locations in Stanley for provision of visitor information and reviews the arrangements post the 22-23 season to see if any refinements are needed. Since Council last formally discussed this in March, a number of things have happened and a lot of work has been put in to come up with the proposal. We've now got a visitor information centre at the Duck River Pavilions in Smithson, and we have a temporary visitor service at the Stanley Caravan Park, which we're very grateful to Fiona for letting us do that while we worked out the way forward. We think it's important to maintain visitor information services in Stanley. Stanley is attracting, it's what we call a hero attraction, and that is the main place that visitors come to. What we'd like them to do is to then come on beyond Stanley and spend more time in the area. So we explored every possible option that we could come up with in conjunction with Stanley stakeholders, and it became clear, we think, that the Town Hall was the not only the best location, but the one supported by most of the Stanley stakeholders as well. In the course of that, we found that there were opportunities to perhaps have some static displays at Highfield House and potentially maintain some static displays at Stanley Caravan Park. So that is the proposed approach. I won't go through the report in full detail, but the Town Hall is central, it's open every day, it could be an inspiring space. We believe there's potential to put a mural on the wall, and we're looking at volunteer management to start with. That's one of the reasons we say that we'll review after the season to see if there needs to be a mix of volunteers and paid staff. We will make an approach to local stakeholders to help us develop a volunteer pool. So I commend the report.
Thank you. Councillor Aldo.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I rise to move the recommendation to the before.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Blizzard. Any further discussion required? It's something we've been talking about for some time now, and it's good that we look like we're going to have a resolution which will take us on for the future. Councillor Blizzard.
Yeah, I'll just quickly commend Tracy, Director of Community Engagement, and the GM, Vanessa, for the way they've worked their way through this to come to a workable position for both Stanley and Smithson going forward. So I'd just like to commend their work there.
Councillor Babowski.
In supporting the recommendation, Mr Mayor, we know that as we stated, Stanley's the gateway to our tourist industry in Circular. One of the things I see, the positive I see, is the visitor centre going into the Stanley Town Hall. At present, with the old visitor centre, approximately up to 17% of the visitors visited the old information centre. I believe the new location is going to encourage the walking public of visitors of Stanley to go into the Town Hall. I think the location is great, so well picked out, and I believe that the information will become more popular in the future.
Thank you. Anything further? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. 11.3, the Strategic Asset Management.
Yes, that's me again, Mr Mayor. The Strategic Asset Management Plan has been updated for 2022. There are no major changes. It's just making sure that we continue to update it regularly to match our resourcing and the annual budget process.
Thank you.
So moved. Sorry.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor and Councillor Oldover.
Thank you.
Any further discussion required?
Just that, Mr Mayor, that this is an important document to match our asset and our asset renewals with our financial plan. It's one of the most important subjects, and may I earmark to any new councillors, get an understanding of the asset management plan and financial plans, because that's important to our future, and it's a roadmap, and we know how to push, dare I say it, the buttons and levers to make sure we're on track and hopefully get back to a positive budget outcome.
I agree. I think that is the most important part of it, because our assets are huge, especially in the places big as Circle Head with not a huge amount of population. Managing our assets is crucial. No further discussion? I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. We'll go now to 11.4, Community Health and Wellbeing Plan. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Would you like me to do the whole?
Yes. Do the whole, the three of them, and then we'll move the three motions at the end of that, because they are all interlinked and working together. So
that's 11.4, 11.5 and 11.6.
That's it.
Yeah.
Thanks. Councillors, providing this report is for you to note an update of our health and wellbeing plan, our age-friendly plan and our youth plan. That's 2019 to 2024. We thought it was a good opportunity to provide a progress report at the end of the financial year to show how we're implementing and the recommendations identified from each of the plans and how we're delivering on our strategic priorities. As you're aware, the development of the plans was a joint initiative with the Waratah Wynyard Council to provide evidence-based long-term direction for planning and implementation of health and wellbeing projects and activities to improve outcomes in our communities. A 5-year implementation plan was developed, ensuring that the plans are active documents, and that spreading the workload over the life of the plans was important. A highlight has been the grant that we received from Healthy Tas. It was the Eat, Breathe, Move, Relax project, and that's assisted both councils to deliver a number of health and wellbeing programs over the last 2 years. It also reflects across all of the plans, so that's been a bonus as well. Also highlighting in the reports are our business as usual activities and the programs that council deliver, and which we always have that underlying health and wellbeing focus. So we'll be identifying our Year 3 actions in the coming weeks, so that'll take us over this. So that goes across all of our plans. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So we'll deal with 11.4 for a start, which is the Community Health and Wellbeing Plan. Is somebody prepared to move that?
Yes, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Blizzard. Deputy Mayor seconded. Any further discussion on that one? No, I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Second one is Age Friendly Communities Plan.
So moved.
Thank you.
I can do it without being.
I reckon we all should second that, Mr. Mayor, but I will.
Okay. Not all bad. No discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. The 11.5, well, a few of us can move that one.
I'd like to move that one. That's the most important one. I can see that.
Use plan.
I reckon.
Councillor Foskey, Councillor Hine second.
Can I just say before this one's
Yes.
been passed? It's good to see a actual idea of what we've actually achieved. It's good to get that information. So I think the staff are doing that. Appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor, I certainly agree with Deputy Mayor there. It's just to get an update on our 5-year plan, because sometimes we do put a policy or a change there and then we don't quite see it until 5 years after the plan's actually completed. So, yeah, really commend the staff on that.
Be a good idea.
Yeah, thanks.
Fantastic.
Yeah, thanks for that. No further discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Now come to 11.7, the Stanley Underground Power Design Project.
Yes, in the absence of the manager engineering projects, I'll take that one as well, Mr. Mayor. So the recommendation is that council notes the completion of the design and cost estimating project, which is, I suppose, the first part of a potential wider project, and confirms in principle support for the proposed conversion. But it's important to note that external funding would be required to carry out those works, and we are recommending that an application for funding is not made until council has made and adopted a master plan for public infrastructure in the area. The risk being, if we go ahead without that, undergrounding works would have to be dug up and reinstated because other infrastructure works might clash with it. So we just want to make sure we're getting our ducks in a row at this point. I commend the report, Mr. Mayor.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Any discussion?
There was just the last part on that, was
Yes.
number 3. We're going to commit to do that in this.
Oh, sorry. Yes,
22,
within.
23.
Yes, sorry.
So that
Yep.
those out there understand.
Sorry, I just didn't read that bit out.
No further discussion? I'm pleased that this has come forward finally. It's been something that's been talked about for some time, and I agree with the comments made about not getting the funding until we find out what works that we need to do, because when and if we get some funding, we need to make sure that that road that's about to come to its end of its life anyhow and does need to be constructed. We've got the funds to be able to do the work that we need to do, whether it's footpaths, roads, anything under those roads needs to be fixed all at the same time. So while it is pulled to bits, we need to put everything back that needs to happen in a timely fashion. But we need to make sure that funding is done as well. So I support the recommendation, and I think it's a good motion. I'm happy to put that motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Now come down to 11.8, which is report from our officers on the scenic values. Thank you.
So I've got the draft report in front of us tonight and seeking recommendation to adopt the scenic quality assessment and management report. The background, we've drafted the report, we've undertaken a consultation, amended the report based on the feedback that we've received, and now seeking adoption of the report. With that, seeking endorsement to commence the recommendations that are included within the report, specifically the implementation of the scenic protection areas. It's noted that significant community engagement with the community will be required with that new project as it comes online, including with landowners that will have their land within those protection areas. We also recommend that we submit to the State Planning Office a recommendation to amend the phrase scenic protection that's within the state planning policies to scenic management, as it better reflects what that code is trying to achieve. We've also prepared an information sheet for tonight describing the process that the planning scheme amendment will need to go through as it's a legislative process. It is quite a lengthy process with 3 opportunities for community consultation on the scenic protection areas. So adopting the report tonight does not change the planning scheme. Make that clear for all sitting in the office.
So can I just ask a question? Yeah. On the time frame, we talked before about a question that was come up. What's the overall time frame before it's actually implemented? Have we got any idea of what that is?
Typical timeframes for a planning scheme amendment from it being submitted with the Commission is 4 to 6 months. That's the best guess we can give you.
That's fine.
It also depends on what their workload is.
I thought it was just good to have that out there so people understand it. It's not a quick process, like it's not going to happen overnight.
There's a number of stages in that, including the hearing process that the Commission run that allows any person who puts in a submission to then speak to their submission to
The fact that the Commission is dealing with a lot of planning schemes still that hasn't been finalised, this could well and truly run much further than 4 to 6 months.
But they do try and keep those 2 workloads different. So they've got a group of people working on the schemes and then scheme amendments as a separate, essentially. So they try and keep those processes running while they are still looking at all the schemes.
Will they stop because we're looking at changing from protection to management? Will that slow it down?
That won't be a separate process. That's run by the State Planning Office. They're responsible for the drafting of the schemes, and the Planning Commission is responsible for those schemes and overseeing them once they're made. So 2 separate streams, essentially.
Okay. Is any further questions? Because this is something that's pretty important that we've been talking about in our community for some time. Are there any further questions? I know that there's a lot of work to be done before it's going to be implemented, so there's probably going to be plenty more opportunities. If there are any questions, let's have them. None?
The only question I've got is whether it's, is it an layer of bureaucracy that's going to be put up for future planners and things like that, and there's enough of those around now, and so and if you look at scenic values, the beauty's in the eye of the beholder anyhow, and so some people have, got some.
We've just got questions now.
Yep.
We don't want to speak to the motion.
Well, the question is, I wonder the merits of posing another layer of bureaucracy on planning.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think that's part of the motion. I think you're either speaking for or against the motion with that. Councillor Blizzard.
Yeah, I'll move the motion.
Thank you.
Mr.
Thanks, Councillor Oldacre. And you want to speak to it?
Yeah, very briefly. Look, it's been outlined by Ashley. It's another management tool where we can look at our scenic values, which we've got many around the community. There's a lot here from the peninsula noted, but there's also the west coast and areas down there which are important to assess as we're going through planning stuff. The fact that it's a management tool, and there are for rural areas, as noted in those in the handouts, exceptions for some stuff in regard to some farming in rural areas. I think it's our next step to actually, in a way, would probably even encourage some development around, but developed in accord with our scenic values, etc.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Older, you want to?
No.
Councillor Ives-Harris.
Mr Mayor, I rise to move a procedural motion that item 11.8 remain on the table until consultation has had with each individual landowner who owns property within the areas highlighted in the report by Inspiring Place.
I second the procedural motion.
You'll second that?
Thank you, Councillor Bosky.
Okay, I've got to put that now. There is no discussion on the procedure.
Did we have a discussion why we want to go into procedural motion or not?
Stated that.
No.
All right, that's enough. You're right.
Until after it has to be laid on the table till such times as we talk to all the individual landowners.
Excuse me, Mr Mayor, I believed after a seconder that I had the ability to understand.
No. Procedural motions. No debate. There's no debate on procedural motions.
Mr Mayor, just to get a point of order, we're not debating. We just how do the other councillors know, other than the brief outlay, that what we'd like to do in a procedural motion? I mean, to convince the other councillors the reason why we want to do it might sway the vote. Yeah, that's a good idea to delay it.
But a procedural motion doesn't do that. I mean, you could
move into committee, Mr Mayor.
No, I can't do that either. Once a procedural motion is put, I mean, it's probably better. There's better ways of doing it if you want to have a discussion. It would have been better to let the discussion happen, and you could have been part of that discussion, and then move a procedural motion.
Well, we can still do that.
No,
if the procedural motion goes down, we can go back to the motion.
Yeah.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
No, I see. But I can't do it the other way because just the ways of the laws.
I'm glad you're back here firing again.
So I'll put the procedural motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against?
No.
No. That is lost. So we'll go back to the motion, and so you can speak against the motion if you wish.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I will speak against the original recommendation and motion. Just so that the general public are aware, my individual view is that I'm supportive of the scenic management report, but without proper consultation with landowners and a definite way forward of it being implemented in the planning scheme, I won't support the recommendation as it currently reads. The report states discussions were had with key stakeholders, Mr Mayor. Who were these key stakeholders?
Who were they? Oh, they were people in our community, obviously, but I don't know. I couldn't name everyone.
As far as I'm aware, no landholder within the protection overlay has been directly consulted with. Would you consider landowners a key stakeholder, Mr Mayor?
Yes. I don't know who was being contacted.
My reasoning for the motion is that the horse is before the cart in this scenario. I believe the settlement and population strategies work hand in hand with the scenic protection overlay. A whole plan can be achieved for each specific area, whether it be Montague, Marrawar or Stanley or the like. Some landowners have visions for housing developments, golf courses and resorts, but through my initial consultation with the current landowners, most just want to keep it the way it is. Who are we to deprive private landowners of a diversification stream, in uncertain times? Through a consultation process on proposing, we can start to create the vision for each area, in turn significantly achieving outcomes and goals our organisation has for the region in the medium to long term. Councillor Oldacre, Councillor Hine and Mayor Quillen, you would know better than I do as far as when it comes to red tape on agricultural land after being landowners for many years. Farmers are often spectacle of the discussions, what have I got here? But with discussions around the coffee table, a lot of differences can be worked through. Imagine Tas Networks wanting to put a transmission line up without individual consultation with landowners. As we only have considered one angle of this report, I suggest you start taking some time to consider some other landowners' commentary, because how can they consult with council when more than 50% of the landowners I've spoken to haven't even heard of the report or council's intentions. So I call on the councillors to carefully consider your vote. Thank you.
Councillor Aldo.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you for your speech. You speak really well. But in essence, if you'd have been through this report and this paperwork, and I know this only turned up here today, if you'd have listened to the planner, Mr Ashley Thornton, you'd have been hearing him say to you that this gets through tonight is that there'll be a certain amount of time, because the question was asked from there about what the time frame was going to be, and all landowners would be consulted through this process. Correct me if I'm wrong, sir, but that's this, and in this here, it clearly says that. Right, so what you've spoke about, sir, it's there. Everybody will be consulted before this finally gets done. Well, I'm only replying to what you said, sir. So we need to support this.
Councillor Posse.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. There's consultation and consultation. Been a long time over my lifetime, dealing with the public of Circular Head. Consultation can be in two ways. You get the people who will do it online, written, and you get the people who want one-to-one contact to get an understanding, to get your feelings. I believe stage one's been done. We put it out to the public, and consultation has happened to those people that were able to do it online and consult. As Councillor Ives has said, a lot of people are unaware. A lot of people don't follow council business as close as we do, and as close as other people do. And it's just our nature here where we live that we like to have one-on-one consultation. So I believe there's part two, and I see where consultation is part of the business. So I'm proposing, once again, to have a motion, what's it called? Procedural motion. Let the councillors think about it. I'd like them to go into, to put up a procedural motion, if I can get a seconder, to have that second stage of the consultation with the landowners, get an overview, get a feeling, then we go through this process, and then the landowners can come back to us again. So I just don't think it's in depth enough, and enough knowledge or enough information's gone one-on-one with the people. So if I can get a seconder, I would like to see a procedural motion to put it there and work out a communication plan with the landowners.
So you're moving that?
I move
I'll second that, Mr Mayor.
I'll accept it. It's virtually the same as one of before, but
well, I just want to make it clear on record. That's all.
Okay, I can accept that. So I'll put the motion again. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
Did we win anyone?
No. Yes, you can talk.
Oh, you can sum up.
You can
Sorry,
sum
you
up.
can finish up. You've already had a talk.
Yeah, I think I'm allowed to.
I understand that what the councillors are saying. I understand all the issues. We're adopting the report as it is. We're adopting that to then go into the consultation. We're still going to come back and endorse it at the end. If you read through the processes, it's still going to come back to council. So, we've got to certify the amendment. Is that right? Is that how I'm reading it?
Yep.
So it's got to come back to us anyway. This is just one thing, just to adopt the report as it sits. Then it goes out to community consultation, has a discussion to the stakeholders, landholders. Then it comes back here. We get to talk about it again. Probably do the same thing. And then it goes out to consultation for a further 28 days before it goes any further. So I can't see why we can't adopt this, go through the next process, and then move forward. And as far as the scenic protection, it's always talking about scenic protection. I think that third one's very important, that we try and get that change to scenic management, because that's all, it's managing the process, not protecting it all. So I'm just gobsmacked.
Any further discussion? I want to have a say before you.
Okay.
Councillor Hunt.
Yes, I hear what you're saying. How are we going to guarantee that we get more input than what was originally done with this, when you've got 250 applicants, of which 125 were outside this area that gave some sort of indication of putting this together. And so in reality, we only had 125 locals that had some contribution to it, and that's too narrow input from the locals, and I hear what you're saying, and obviously it's going to go forward for more consultation, but somehow we've got to try and get more discussion amongst the locals and how they see it.
Okay, I'll be supporting the motion because there is a consultation period that's going to take place for whether it's a month or 2 months or whatever it's going to be, and where all landholders are going to be visited. And so, and then if that's not enough, and we still, when that comes back to council, if we're not happy with that, we've still got another date where we've got 28 days, we can further do consultation. And so if people feel that they haven't been heard and they come and talk to council about that, the second lot of consultation, we've still got time to deal with it then. So I think it's ample time, and so I think it's up to all of us as councillors to make sure that this next consultation does what we wish it to do, and if it doesn't, I'd ask our locals to come and talk to us about it so that we can actually at least fix it up on the last occasion if this one isn't okay. So I still think we've got ample time to do it. It is important that people know what is going to happen with their land should it be changed, because it's not fair for that not to happen, but we've still got plenty of time for that to happen, but we just need to make the best of those 2 stages. So I'll be supporting. Councillor Blizzard,
just quickly, Mr. Mayor, I'll just acknowledge basically where I was going to head again was where Councillor Burke and yourself have headed. The management part of that is very important. It gives us another tool to work with as we do these things. Ashley has stated that the landholders directly affected would be contacted and would be talked to. They get their opportunity there, comes back to us, then all those people would get the opportunity to still going to give their presentation to the Tasmanian Planning Commission. There's so many spots along this way where it can be studied, ticked off, or for that matter, pulled up. It's really the next step on the process that I think is fairly important for our area. So just in summing up, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'll now put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
3 against. That's fine, that is carried. Thank you. We now move on to 12, financial report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like the council to note the interim financial statements for June 2022. These financial statements will now go through our asset recognition process, full accounting, accrual process and provisioning, and these will be audited and presented as part of the annual report. One thing that I would like to note that up to June 2022, council acknowledges 15 first home plans for the financial year.
Good. Thank you. Any discussion required? Thank you. Deputy Mayor moved. Seconded?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any discussion? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Carried. 12-2. Annual plan and budget estimates.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to present the annual plan and budget estimates for 22-23 to satisfy the Local Government Act 1993. The budget estimates, fees and charges have been prepared in consultation with council staff and through a series of workshops and meetings. The 22-23 budget estimates include a projected operational deficit of some $447,000. Included as part of this is a 4% general rate rise, bridge placement program, including bridges at New Haven Road and Paulina Road, and upgrades to the Old Stanley Road and Upper Scottstown Road. So I'd like to present the annual plan for adoption.
Thank you. Somebody prepared to move?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Osiris and Deputy Mayor. Any discussion?
I know, I told Duncan that they didn't like his presentation.
Yeah, they'll walk.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I've been.
Mr. Mayor, I've been speaking on the budget. We've got to have a few words to make the Finance Minister happy. What I see is as more and more services expect us to either collect money like the fire and waste service, it should be separated, and we should lobby that the government do that through their own organisation, through Service Tasmania. I don't think it's fair. That's outside the budget, as it's stated. The budget's a roadmap for where we see now where we're going to spend our money in the next year. As we've seen there, we couldn't let it go without realising that one of the biggest imposts on us is our wages. I understand we've got to have people to do the work, and I'm sure that over the last few years we've made great inroads into trying to be more lean, mean and efficient, and we've made cuts along the way, and we're getting down to now not the low-hanging fruit. There's no low-hanging fruit anymore. It comes down to employees and the culture of being able to do the best they can with the least they got. So it's a tough road ahead. Of course, we'd all like to see a balanced budget. We could also see that we could put the rates up like other councils have. But we're manageable. Luckily, over the past years, we've had a little bit of money in the bank that's allowed us to be a little bit lenient through this period of time. But that don't last forever. We can't keep going to the bank account. As I say to my wife, we've got to get some in as well as spend it. But and that's no different. This is like running a household budget. You can only spend what you got. But I'm sure the new our general manager will be well aware of that, much better than I. But it is a roadmap. We'll make some amendments as we see through the year. And thank you for putting it together after a lot of discussion. And hopefully we can start steering towards the strategies and strategic plans we've got, instead of having to do today mundane, which I know we've got to do. But I'd like to see in the future where we've got a roadmap where we can spend money on our strategic plans to improve the district, to grow the district, to make the best place to live. So I think this year we'll get away with doing the housekeeping. Next year I want to see that we are starting to move forward with our strategic thinking. But thank you.
Any further discussion? Only that I could add, I think I'd just like to congratulate our staff for the work that's gone into this, because these plans start around Christmas time and they've only just finished. So, and we haven't had a full quota of staffing during this period of time at all. And so, I think with the issues that you've had, I think you've done a fantastic job. And so I want to congratulate the staff on the job well done.
Thank you.
Nothing further. I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. 12.13, Senior Manager.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Sorry. There we go. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One or two things to highlight. Is there anything you wanted to mention in particular? No, okay. I'd just like to say that the NAIDOC flag raising went very well and was very well received. The health and wellbeing Saviour Bacon breakfasts and lunch had a good attendance, and I think people were very grateful for that. And also to pick out that we've supported approximately 20 young women, including 3 CHIL members, to attend a programme in Power workshop at Circular Head Christian School. In topics were empowerment, values, strengths, leadership, mentoring and goal setting, which I think is really important for young women to have the opportunity to do that. And the final thing I wanted to highlight here was the Smithson Visitor Centre opened on the 6th of June with 240 visitors in that month. And we heard earlier this week that so far in July, they've had well over 300 visitors. So even in the slow months, that's starting to become, popular. And the cheese tastings are going extremely well as well. And I think it will only go from strength to strength. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. The only thing that I'd like to mention, that health and wellbeing, the dates were 21st, 2nd and 3rd actually, but at the one that I went to, I was convinced that I needed to go to a doctor.
They give it a big tick, Mr. Mayor.
You could have, silly as it might sound, but you could have nearly been a casualty.
Well, could have been, I suppose, but by the end of the day, at the end of the 23rd, I was in hospital in Burnie. I was confirmed.
And a member of
did
staff did kill him.
Yes.
Yeah, I was told, but I was told of quite a few people actually.
Not unusual.
That was probably the thing that convinced me that I just really did need to go. So.
Can I just make a couple of comments? First of all, the NAIDOC week, I didn't get the flag raising, but I went out to Tremana, and what they did out there was absolutely fantastic. The amount of young students that turned up, it was just great to see that they were actually wanting to embrace the community and actually show them the Aboriginal culture. And I think that is fantastic for both Chack and Drummer Hill. So I just think we should congratulate them for what they've done there. Also with CHIL, with Jody running the CHIL program with the sleep out the other night, I actually turned up. I don't know how many councillors turned up there to say good day.
Thanks for doing my job.
I know Councillor Blizzard couldn't make it, so. But it was a fantastic night, and just to see the young ones' faces, and even turned up again at 6 o'clock the next morning just to check to make sure they got through the night, and went out to breakfast with them, and just their positive outlook and what they achieved out of that. I think it's a big thank you to Jody and the team for what they did there. It was a great effort.
Yeah.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, I did go to the flag raising ceremony, and Councillor Blizzard was there, and a number of our staff. But the amount of kids, our young people were there was really good. So that's the most I've ever seen at a flag raising ceremony ever. So well done to everybody. Anything else on the report? Or the letters in the report? Is there any comments about any of those? Questions? Number of letters there.
Mr Mayor, I just had one from the Minister for Tourism relating to the illegal camping. I don't want to be a smart aleck, but Parks and Wildlife to actually act upon the phone call, otherwise people won't call again. So that's probably the reasoning for not getting many phone calls to the Arthur River office. But really appreciate the correspondence between the Minister and yourself relating to it, because biosecurity, as Councillor Aldarkin mentioned with FMD, is a massive risk and needs to be taken serious from this government department. So if we can continue to put pressure on in the winter months so the summer doesn't become an issue for primary agricultural people. Thank you.
Thank you. And nothing further? I'll be prepared to move the recommendation. Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Seconded.
Second that, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Ives Harris. Put the recommendation.
Aye.
Aye.
Against? That is carried. We now go down to 13. The minutes of the committee, and so there's 5 of those. We'll have the recommendation and then we'll go through each one.
So moved.
Thanks, Councillor Oldacre. Seconded.
Yeah, happy to, Mr. Mayor.
Put the recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Circular Education and Training Consultative Committee for a start. Any questions on that at all? Comments? Questions? None? We'll then move to Youth Advisory. Comments on that at all? No? 13.3, Youth Leaders. Nothing on that. Stanley Town Hall. Got that fire in all falls there, Councillor Oldacre?
Well, they all agreed to sort of have the information centre there, so
Yeah,
that's not in these, but it's in the next one. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, that's good.
yeah, that's good.
And I might also add, it might have some exact dates, but there's going to be some movies done over there,
Oh yeah, I did hear about that.
which will be really good. But the unfortunate thing is they can't charge at the door. It's got to be a donation as you go in because of property rights of the people making the movie. Is it correct?
That's the live stream. Well, it's going to be the TSO. There's an opportunity to have, not doing it live streamed. We're doing
It's taped.
yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, and we'll be holding that during November. A date is to be determined. So we'll actually be able to see the TSO perform Rhapsody in Blue.
Yep. Oh, good. Yeah. Oh, good. All right, thanks for that.
And I have told them not to get involved with fire escape business. That's a matter for Denny's. Not under control. There's nobody else will do it. Anybody else going there poking their nose in is only going to get into trouble.
Yeah, we probably will as well as the people that do it. All right, Northern Area Management Committee.
The only thing that came out, unfortunately I didn't go to this meeting because I had the flu, but the pump track seems to be ramping up and a bit of land transfer, and they want to come and speak to councillors. Any date's been set for a
Yes,
workshop there?
one of the August workshops. Now we've got 2 proposals in front of us, one from the Smithson group and one from Stanley.
Yep.
We have tried to bring them together to come up with one proposal, but that hasn't borne fruit, so they're both coming to council to be informed about, and we can probably only realistically cater for one in the area. But yes, coming to council for an August workshop.
Yeah, well, that's a good way. Thank you for that, organising both opinions at this time in our lives.
So we'll have pump tracks at 20 paces, have we?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, nothing else on that?
Just the other point. Yep. There was I think I read in the minutes here, I haven't got any red markings on it, but let's go with it. I read his Damien and Amber Barker. Are they renting the vacant block instead of the other guy that had it used? Milton?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, they're leasing it.
Yeah.
Anything else, people? If not, we don't have to worry about public questions.
Well, we don't
Duncan
Gus to
lost
speak
them all.
again.
Duncan saved
Duncan
that.
lost them all.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Mayor. I see you enjoying your work.
I don't enjoy it.
Matters listed below, listed for consideration. I need a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Bosky. Put the motion, all those in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. Councillor Rolday can move the next one then. Closure of meeting to resolve confidential matters. Who wants to second that?
Yes.
Thanks, Councillor Hine. Put the motion, all those in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried.
Okay.
We can turn the
We can just,
tapes off.
yep. Wait for that. We're gonna